First, I want to thank all you guys. It's been a long few days, but you guys have been great through the whole thing and worked with us to make sure we don't jeopardize the case, make sure to get the right information out and accurate information. There are a couple rumors that are out there that are no fault of anybody's here, but they're out there and we wanted to address them. One of the issues that we want to address right away is we have a lot of guys feeling pretty bad that did CPR and worked on our deputy. Just so they know and the medics know and everybody knows, after the autopsy it was determined that his wound was catastrophic. If he would have had that gunshot wound laying on the operating table, he would not have made it. So there's nothing anybody could have done. Our deputy was killed instantly. They did CPR and they did heroic stuff and they worked on him to the hospital. The doctors brought him right in the operating room, and the doctors too also told us that it was a non-survivable wound under any circumstances. So I want to put everybody to rest that they did everything they could and there's nothing more they could have done. Secondly, there were multiple shots fired. Our deputy did engage with the suspect or suspects, that's still yet to be determined, but through the evidence obtained at the autopsy, one of the suspects did shoot our deputy. The bullet fired that killed him came from one of the suspects. Now, that being said, our deputy also fired multiple rounds in this gun battle, 5 of them. What we didn't know, and that deputy didn't know, and a lot of people don't know until we got the body out of there, the suspect, that he was wearing body armor. And he had body armor on under his hoodie type sweat coat, and multiple rounds hit that body armor before the shot was returned that killed our deputy. Also, one of the shots our deputy fired would have led to his death, but the suspect fired his own weapon into his own head. Whether that was intentional or accidental, we'll never know, but he did shoot himself in the head with his own gun after being shot 5 times by our deputy. So this is just very unfortunate randomness that the one round that hit our deputy hit him in the worst possible spot ever. Our deputy was wearing a vest. That doesn't matter in this case. It did not. It was above the vest, and it's just really unfortunate. There's talk about the residents out there, and that there might be some victims that live in this house. There are some victims that live in this house, and that's the 2- and 3-year-old that were living in that house. There are no beds in that house. The house is filthy. We've been to that house 15, 16 times for multiple reasons over the last 14 months, 13 months. That is a well-known area out there called a trap house, and people know it. There's heroin that goes in and out of there, and I don't care what anybody tells you in that residence. They put the situation together that lives there, people live there, to let this happen. To let our deputy get shot, to let these kids live in squalor. And as you go through the information we're going to give you, you will see the only 2 victims are the 2- and 3-year-old. And I know what your next question is going to be, and the answer is yes, we are addressing that issue as well. That is something our detectives are doing simultaneously as we investigate this case. We're going to be able to answer some questions, but those are some of the things that we wanted to clarify and let you know that we learned. It's a new world out there when we have suspects that are arming themselves, breaking into houses where there's little kids wearing body armor and carrying .45s. This is something that unfortunately seems to be happening a lot. As quick as we shut these houses down, they open back up. So the problem needs to be addressed. Manpower, we've talked about that. That is an issue. I'm going to have numbers for you because a lot of you have asked what our staffing numbers are and why was he out there alone. And he did not violate any department policies, and he did everything that every one of us would have done if we would have showed up and saw 2 people running from a residence. We would have chased them. And if it happens again tonight, our guys will go out and chase them. That's just how we are.
I'll take that from you, if I may. One of the things we sometimes get asked is why do we equip our people the way we equip our people? Well, as I think you know, as journalists, the environment out there is extremely well equipped. You just heard an example of that with one of the assailants wearing body armor. Another thing to follow up on what Detective Troyer said is there's something that you need to know and the public needs to know. And that is we answer calls we get to help people. We will answer those calls if they come from people who have been problematic for us before or people who have not. We will answer calls from the wealthiest residents of our county and the poorest residents of our county. We owe them that kind of service. Also, we are placed in a moral dilemma. When people's lives are immediately in danger, we feel morally compelled to do something about that. You've covered that recently in school shootings and active shooter situations. We no longer stand back and wait. We engage to try to save lives. It becomes a bit of a moral dilemma, whether you wait for backup, which may be several minutes in coming, or you choose to engage. We allow our people a great deal of discretion, because if we didn't do that, we wouldn't be able to police this county with the amount of demand, the area we police, and the number of people who live here.
Now, our second subject that we have in custody, the containment worked, and we want to thank the public for helping us as they went around our roadblocks. The containment plan we put into place put him into the woods, and he came out and an alert trooper caught him. Before that, we have tied him to this officially through our eyes, and our detectives have got a lot more information as we're speaking here and presenting it to the prosecutor. But we do have video of him climbing a barbed wire, not a barbed wire fence, but a security fence into a private neighborhood and hiding in the neighbor's garbage can. That video is not in our hands. It's been seen by our people. That video will be made available when we get it to make it available to you. It's our second suspect. He cut himself up while climbing over the fence, and we'll have more information that'll come out through the prosecutor's office on the details of how we tied him to the crime. You know that we've also got a 52-year-old female in custody that we believe has dropped him off and was going to be the getaway driver, but as soon as the police cars and everybody came into the area, she fled. There may be some more people. We're interviewing some more people. We're finding about some other people that are involved. And anybody, just like other cases, our prosecutor told us that bring it to them. Let's see if we can hold more people accountable if they had any involvement. The parents in this particular case are going to be held accountable. There's a 2- and 3-year-old there. Once again, I want to state, these are the only 2 victims, and our deputy is a victim, but only 2 victims in that house are those 2- and 3-year-old boys. There's no beds in that house. There's feces on the floor, human, those squalor conditions that nobody should live in. And I know some people are going to be upset over that, and yes, we are working that particular angle of the case simultaneously.
Are we ready for questions?
Anybody have any questions?
Is there any reason to believe that Frank Powell was wearing body armor as well?
We don't know if he was wearing body armor, because when he was picked up, he wasn't. But we did recover 2 handguns from the scene, and we believe the other handgun we recovered was his.
Can you
Was
say
this
whether or not
possibly
Brenda Troyer is
courthouse
cooperating?
thing?
Can you say whether or not Brenda Troyer is cooperating with your investigation?
I'm not sure what her involvement and cooperation with the investigation is. That's gone through our detectives into the prosecutor's office. Just like from now on, the other 2 guys, the questions will be answered by the prosecutor's office when it comes to that. I don't want to jeopardize any cases.
And was this possibly a drug
Yes.
house, or was this a drug-related?
This was a drug house. They were going there armed, wearing ballistic vests, disguising themselves to a house in order to obtain drugs and money. Drugs and money, or both. We did recover some safes that were stolen from the residents. The details of what was in those I don't know. But we do believe that this was a drug and money-related residential armed robbery.
Can you talk a little bit about staffing that you briefly mentioned before? Do you need more? Would more have been helpful in this case?
I'm sure that more would have been helpful in this case. We don't have a quiet little rural county. We have a highly urbanized county. I think that there are news outlets on the East Coast who have Detective Troyer's speed dial. There are more national news stories that come out of this county than probably any county its size in the United States. We are policing 1,800 square miles and almost 430,000 people in unincorporated Pierce County. Think about that. The city of Seattle has how many people? About 600,000, a little over 600,000? Well, the next biggest jurisdiction, sub-county jurisdiction in the state, is unincorporated Pierce County. We have a large county, we have an active county. We are blessed by having men and women who have the smarts and heart to work hard and police this. They go into chaotic situations, they go into very challenging and confusing situations, and they work to make the best moral choice they can in that situation. That is not easy. You've covered this before, you know this very well. Our people, more than anything else they do, is they interact with people and they make difficult moral and ethical choices. Those choices can affect other people's lives. Those choices can affect their own lives as well. We put ourselves at risk for that reason.
You said you're going after the parent or parents.
When this investigation's done and the totality of everything will go through a detective and be turned over to the appropriate agencies for further
Do you
investigation.
believe he
Absolutely.
was one of the targets, or was the other two gentlemen and the other two roommates that were in the house?
Anybody who didn't know what was going on in that house besides the 2- and 3-year-old is lying to you. You don't have the police show up to your house 16 times in a 14-month period and priority responses of people showing up to your house with weapons, wearing body armor randomly. I don't think it's happened to anybody you know or anybody. It happened there. And the people that live in that house created that scenario and created that type of residence that put those kids in danger and got our deputy killed.
Do you know if Deputy McCartney had actually been to that house helping the dad get
One of the
back in
things
house?
that we're doing is we're going to give you the call history for that house. When you leave here, you'll also have our numbers of deputies, because I know that's been an issue with you guys have asked me, and you also have a detailed list of the events that night and what led to where we are today with the investigation. I know that I've seen all of you guys in the last few weeks because we've been in a school shooting together. We've been in a, train wreck, spilling people all over Pierce County, and now we have this. So manpower is an issue for us. Resources. Our detectives are spent. They're working 4 times as many cases as other agencies. I mean, we just kind of hit our limit.
How do you get more?
Well, that's
That's a question that I posed on my Facebook page. I think you may have seen it. What do we need to do to reduce the vulnerability of the people who protect us? Because unless we do that, we are all more vulnerable. That's something we have to address, and it may not just be staffing. It may be a number of other things as well, but as this county grows, and in about 6 years it's going to be a 1 million-person county altogether, when this county grows, what kind of criminal justice infrastructure do we need to take care of a 1 million-person county? That is a very important question to ask that the citizens here need to answer. As I've said to people, and you've heard me say, people get as much or as little public safety as they want, and we need to work hard to give them as much as possible. I want to echo something that Ed said a minute ago. You have been terrific to work with. Thank you. You have a hard job. Your hearts are hurt by this as well. You are not immune to being affected by these things. I've worked with most of you. I've seen most of you. Being a journalist does not give you an impenetrable shell. You worry about us, I know. You worry about families. You worry about victims. Thank you for that. That's a hard job. You're exposed to some of the tugs on the heart that we are. And so you have been there with us and with the family and with the community, and I say God bless you for that.
Ed, can you say whether or not any of the people in the home could face charges directly in connection with the death of Deputy McCartney?
That'll be up to the prosecutor, Mark Lindquist's office, and he's meeting with our detectives right now. And that'll be up to them after they look at the totality of the information and figure out the whole entire issue that made this occur and what happened that night, and that'll be up to them to make those decisions. But we will get them all the information that we possibly can so they can make a good, clear decision on what can be done and who needs to be held accountable.
At this point, do we know the relationship between Brenda and Powell or anyone else?
It's a relationship that would be formed over drugs and money. And Brenda, just so everybody knows, is not related to me. I've never heard or seen her before.
Status of the kids, the two.
2 and 3-year-old, that is something we are working on now. We just want to do it right. We
Are
wanna
they,
make
are they
sure-
safe right now? Are they in?
Well, they're not in any worse shape than they were before, and we want to make sure that we do everything right so the back end of this comes out good for them. Absolutely. I think one of the things you're going to find is when you do the numbers on our department, we have about 0.7, 0.68, 0.72, somewhere right in there, deputies per 1,000. You'll look at other agencies, some of them have 2.5, 2.1, 1.8. We literally could double in size, our whole entire staff, and still be behind a lot of the larger agencies. I say those numbers that way because it's easy to understand when you look at the ratios. Very simple, that our department is, could double in size and we would still, still be behind. And not that we're asking to double in size. We're not asking to double in size, but we are asking that everybody take a hard look at what we're doing, what our guys are doing nightly, and what do we need to do to keep people safe.
How is your department doing? How is, I mean, that's big problems to fix, right, in terms of numbers, but in the meantime.
Our people, if the question is, how do our people do? I'm amazed and humbled by how our people conduct themselves. We have probably assigned more responsibility to people lower down the chain of command than other agencies do. They make their own decisions about arrests. They're trained to step up and make decisions. The idea that they can control the environment in which they police is something that we entrust them with and something they do time after time a great job of. Are they perfect? No. But I've worked for 5 different agencies. I've never worked with better people than I get to work with here. Now, if your question was, how is the agency doing? Our hearts are hurt. There's no two ways about it. What is amazing to me and what I shake my head and wonder at is our hearts are hurt. One of our colleagues is dead, but people suit up and they go out and they lose sleep and they work and they don't kick rocks and they go continuing to give service to people in this county even as they are investigating this murder. It would be nice if we could say, gee, give us 2 weeks and no other crime because we're in the midst of that. That doesn't happen. We are still doing what we do day to day. And I admire, I respect, and frankly, I am humbled and rocked back by the kind of effort and heart our people show.
And we invite the public out Friday to the Candlelight Vigil, and it'll be a good time to meet his partners, his squad, and some of our guys that work out there. They'll be stopping by, come by and say hi to them. Just stop by and say hi and thank you.
So, again, so what if the dad of these 2 kids says that he just moved back in with the help of Deputy McCartney because the 2 other guys locked him out even though this guy's grandmother owns the place, and he just got back in recently, and it's the other 2 guys that are the targets, or at least one other guy's the target, and not him.
That could be, absolutely, but still you don't know, you do not know what was going on at that house. All the neighbors did, everybody else did. And he's going back into that house knowing that that activity was going on there. Shame on him. And we'll get the reports and we'll get you the information. And you just need to know there's a 2 and 3-year-old kid there and that supersedes everything, no matter who helped who. And if he did do it, then yeah, he was doing his job helping him get back in.
And I think what Detective Troyer is trying to say that even Helen Keller would have known what was going on in that house if she had moved back in.
Everybody did. So we'll get you guys all the information and paperwork. If there's any other questions, we'll be around after that. We'll break this down right now, but we'll both be around for questions afterwards. And once again, thank you for all your help for the next few days. And from here on out, we'd like to see everybody at the vigil and the service. But as far as the case goes, we're going to put it in the prosecutor's office hands for any
So
further
James
comments.
is the contact from here on out?
James Lynch is right there. He'll be the contact for the prosecutor's office with Mark. So thank you guys for coming. Appreciate it.
Ken.